Here's a common unspoken reason why a lot of people end up moving towards non monogamy, specifically polyamory. Honesty and communication have very different meanings for us in the monogamous mindset. Monogamy often does include a lot of expectations that are assumed to be proof of love. The expectation you don't feel desire for another person, the expectation that you feel like they're the only one on this earth you can love and your world will fall apart without them, the expectation that you be in some ways codependent, the expectation that cheating is normal, but you just don't talk about it, and that's fine, and everybody's safe. The expectation that you should assume that anyone and everyone wants unprotected intimacy. Polyamory allows for more honesty and it promotes more communication. These things are critical in monogamous relationships as well. But the approach in monogamy that we have, well, many of us have been raised with, is that we are less communicative, more presumptive, in part because we assume we know the model and we assume everybody's playing by the same rules. I met someone recently who said one of the issues they would have when they were younger, particularly when they were in high school, is they actually asked their friends, what does it mean that you're dating? And they would get two different answers from a couple. Dating means we're exclusive. Well, the other side of that couple didn't agree. Monogamy often includes not having those explicit conversations, not defining things, and often the assumption that even asking for things to be defined is a sign of a problem, an insult, or some form of passive aggression or stupidity. When that is what you're up against, it makes it a lot harder to be honest. I think a lot of poly people enjoy the direct honesty and the fact that communication is expected up front. There is no way around it. And with that being up front and that expectation, we have to do the work to do that communication and to receive it without judgment, without blowing up. If you're someone who cannot hear someone else, then you're going to have a really hard time in any relationship, but especially a non-monogamous, especially a polyamorous one. A lot of polyamorous people recognize that we enjoy a multitude of spiritual, emotional, romantic, physical connections. And that is where a lot of people are like, well, why don't you just be friends with people and just not have sex? Isn't that the same? No, that's different. For a lot of us, that's different. Not everyone. I mean, often those same people will then go, well, if you're asexual or aromantic, why are you doing X, Y, and Z? Human nature and wants, desires, what we are oriented to, what we are comfortable with, are diverse and complex. Polyamory allows for a shifting kaleidoscope of who we are, what we want, and communicating those things in a way that often monogamy does not allow for. Monogamy is often not just about being in a monogamous relationship. It comes with those unexplained, sometimes unexpected burdens of this is what it looks like. And again, in that system, that diversity of relationships is often villainized. Even having a friendship that has a non-romantic, non-physical, emotional connection can be deemed as some form of cheating. Even if you're not really building emotional intimacy, I have known many people, I would say many people, particularly in the Black community, particularly in the Black church, who had problems with heterosexual friendships with the opposite gender. Now, that wasn't it. There were also people who had problems with their partners being friends with bisexuals or polyamorous people. That is actually fairly common. People get intensely jealous and insecure when their partner's best friend comes out as polyamorous with no desire to date them. It doesn't matter. There's an insecurity there. But all of that comes from this idea that monogamy is about drawing this line, and any threat to that line is limited. We are also just supposed to know that line is there. It is so common for me to have clients in both of my practices come to me and expect me to be very much on their side when they say, my partner is still friends with this childhood friend of the opposite gender. And it's almost always the opposite gender. It very rarely happens in same gender couples. And what they're expecting me to say is, oh, that's a problem. What I say is, I could see why, if you feel that that's a threat, that would make you upset. Why do you feel that's a threat? And then they go, well, duh, anybody would. I'm like, no, that's not exactly true. Everybody's different. What makes it a threat for you? And that's where the growth comes in. That's where, okay, let's look at the evidence. Are there things they have done that have been boundary crossing? Are there things your partner has done that have been boundary crossing? We can work with that. That is also where the honesty and communication come in. The honesty with yourself about what's happened in a relationship, about who your partner is, what they're doing, whether your boundaries have been crossed, whether you even expressed those boundaries prior. All of that comes in there. In polyamory, you are often already primed to talk about those things, and you've already been going through them, and that's why people like it. If you recognize those connections, it's accepted to build connections, and in many relationships, but not all, to let people know, hey, I have this connection with this person, or hey, I have a new connection in this way. This is what I'm doing to keep everybody safe. Versus monogamy, which often does include a bit of secrecy, a bit of a lie, and somebody's expectations are way more strict than ours, even if we're doing nothing wrong. And if we choose not to engage in that lie, then it often leads to, well, I can't be friends with that person. I can't have this person in my life. Or I can't have an authentic relationship as it's always been. And that can be really tough for a lot of people, especially when it goes unspoken that that's an expectation until something blows up. People ask me, how can I explain the decision-making process? For me, I'll probably make a video about it more, but it wasn't motivated by commitment phobia. It wasn't motivated by a fear of cheating on my partners again either. It was not motivated even by having specific people in mind I wanted a relationship with. It was realizing this is a style of relationship that worked for me and that I liked, and that I was comfortable with when other people were meeting me where I was at. And now I've been in multiple long-term relationships. All of my serious relationships, including the monogamous ones, were 2, 3+ years. And building on that has meant building up an understanding of what works for me. And I encourage everybody to do that. What works for you? Why does your lifestyle, your love style work for you, and where doesn't it? Monogamous or not, you should think about that. But that's why a lot of people end up thinking about non-monogamy and polyamory. They start asking really critical questions. They start wanting more communication, more honesty, more openness. It's really that simple. Anyway, I'm Dee. This is Clinically Polyamorous, Naturally Black. As always, take care. And I have this really awesome um, set of videos I'm finishing up on jealousy. Take a look at them. If you want more information, if you have ideas for shows, comment down below. Bye. Hey, thank you for watching Clinically Polyamorous, Naturally Black.